I'm Brian Barnett. I'm just a regular guy. I'm not a doctor. I have no legal license in any field of psychology. But I did live a large part of my life with borderline personality disorder unknowingly. And I really did rid myself of the disorder completely and permanently. Through that, I've become an expert on issues involving emotional health. I accept no responsibility whatsoever for your feelings, thoughts, behaviors, decisions, and actions, including your decision to watch or listen to this show at all. But I do hope you might benefit yourself from the insights I share. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome back to The Last Symptom. I'm Brian Barnett, the creator and host of The Last Symptom. Got a special program for you. This episode, it's a follow-up to last week's episode, or the previous episode. In the previous episode, I interviewed my cousin, Jay. And in this episode, we're going to play the second part of that interview. Before we get started, though, let me make a few brief announcements. First of all, thelastsymptom.com is my website full of free and paid resources. I'd like you to check that out. We have an online community, The Last Symptom online community, over at thelastsymptom.locals.com. Another way you can join that is by downloading the locals.com app and searching for The Last Symptom by Brian Barnett. Why is that important? Well, because every Monday I do a live stream for exclusive to our community there. And in that live stream, members of the Last Symptom community are able to interact with me, ask questions, discuss the things they would like to discuss in real time. And so that has been established now for going on several months, and it's a lot of people like it. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, please join our online community there at thelastsymptom.locals.com so that you can enjoy those Monday live streams, and also so that you can interact with the rest of the community and you can take advantage of the conversations that we have there. Let's see, are there any other announcements? Of course, the Last Symptom Fundamentals course is that 2-week intensive pre-recorded course that you can access from thelastsymptom.com. That really is an information-rich, comprehensive course that can provide you with the insights necessary to really get you started and established in the right direction for complete and authentic recovery from any emotional disorder that you're dealing with, or that somebody else that you know is dealing with, and you want to know how to handle that situation, how to understand it, and how to deal with it. That's the course for you, the Last Symptom Fundamentals course. I'm not going to hop back on here at the end of the program. I'm just going to let the program play out, the interview play out. So right now, to begin, and I'll wish you folks a wonderful weekend. Do something nice for yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Be compassionate and kind with yourselves, while at the same time holding yourself to firm expectations. And I will see you over at on our online community, thelastsymptom.locals.com. All right? Enjoy the show. What I knew about Jared before all this was that apparently he had, everybody said he had found religion, and what happened between that and this?
Well, that would have been some years before, but yeah, he was so we were
doing real good for a while.
He was doing real good for a while. So at one point when I was up in the Dayton area, they started taking Suboxone, which is now, are you familiar with Suboxone? You know what so now it's basically, as you were saying earlier, there's these different medicines that you can take that basically replace the heroin. It's for withdrawing and coming off of opiates. It's basically, if I'm not mistaken, it blocks some of the receptors that the opiate receptors in your body. So you take one of these Suboxone, you can't get high off of heroin because it blocks the receptors. So the opiates can't cling to the receptors in your body or your brain or whatever that give you the pleasure and the high and all that stuff. So we were taking Suboxone up there just to be taking it because it was giving us energy and stuff. And so, and that went on for years. I took those for about 8 years.
Prescribed or?
No, not prescribed. But they're so strong that one pill, I was just breaking it and crushing it up and sniffing it. And, my wife had no idea. And I did it for 8 years and quit doing them. And then, my wife had no idea that I was even taking them. But one pill would last me about 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, so I just break a tiny piece off and snort it. And I think a lot of it, like you were saying earlier, is the mental part and the emotional part of it is, but just cause I remember not having it. I mean, you talk about withdrawals, and just sick as could be. But as soon as I wouldn't even have to do it. But if I got one in my hand, I would feel better instantly because I knew that it was, And so, Jared, he went to. He was back in town, and so he started going to church or whatever. And he said that he seen the face of God. He said, he's seen Jesus, and he just quit. He quit cold turkey right then. I seen this video yesterday. This guy said, he said he was talking to his dad. His dad said, "Dad, you quit smoking?" And he goes, "Yeah, I quit smoking. And I quit cold turkey too." And he said, "Wow." He said, "I didn't know that you was so obsessed with deli meat." And so it just cracked me up. So now when I say I quit cold turkey is he said, "Which one was harder, the cigarettes or the deli meat?" But the dad never picked up. It was just hilarious. So now yeah, so that's where my brain was at. But anyway, so he quit doing he quit everything and was really going to church and real active in it, and he was great. He was happy, and everything was good. And I don't honestly, I don't know what happened. I never did ask him what happened, why he quit.
Could have been a period of stress in his life, or disillusionment, or disappointment. It could have been anything.
Yeah, or it could have been none of that, and it just. Because a lot of people are saying, because I'm still going to drug and alcohol counseling every week, 2 weeks, and I started thinking like, what they're saying that there's all these triggers and everything, and why did you go? Was it your childhood, or did something happen to this and that? And I don't know. Part of me thinks that it was just, it feels good.
Well, I don't want to be the guy who gives you all this advice and analysis and everything like that. I just don't think I'm the right person for that. But I'll tell you that in my personal experience, and what I talk to people a lot about, is that it doesn't work to mask underlying causes. In my case, with all my emotional disorders of the past, there were things below the surface that I had to address. And I like to think of it as like a dam that's holding back a whole bunch of water. And that dam starts to give away. You can plug it with your finger, but that pressure hasn't gone nowhere. It's still there, and it'll search out other weak parts of that dam to come out. So, yeah, again, I don't want to be like your counselor or anything. I'd rather just be your cousin and talk about stuff. But for people watching, I would say that's what I'm thinking happened with Jared when he got all religious and everything. It's nice that he was feeling good and doing good in those during that time, but clearly the underlying things that had always been bothering him, he never identified and addressed. So they're just waiting for a time to come out, like a moment of stress or something like that. You working with all these counselors and everything, how's that going? How do you feel about them when they start talking about, like what you were just talking about? Where's this really coming from?
I don't mind it.
Do you spend time actually thinking about it and giving it some credence, or do you just kind of like brush it off as just kind of like psychobabble talk?
Well, no, I try to participate, and but I've really never, I've never really taken the time to try to think of where it might be coming from or whatever. I just, and I mean, part of me wants to say that, to go back and try to pinpoint it on one certain thing would be, I think, sometimes we make things more complicated than they are, and I think that, I just, I was a wild little son of a bitch, and I think that I liked the being funny, and so I was hanging out with the older crowd because I was making them laugh. And
so my question then, so when I talk about getting down to underlying things, it would be asking yourself why. Like, why does it make you feel good to make other people laugh? Where does that come from?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to analyze. I don't want to analyze.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I just want to give you some things to think about. For example, hearing you talk, it's like an echo of exactly the way I used to think. That, probably worse than that. I used to think that any psychology was just a big bunch of nothing. I thought. People ask me about my feelings and stuff like that. I remember getting angry at them. Like, listen, I got real problems. And you want to talk about my feelings? Who cares what I feel about a thing? Look, this is in the real world. This is happening right now, and it needs to be fixed.
Yeah, my electric's off. Yeah,
right. Don't have any money. My girlfriend left me. She's pregnant with the neighbor's husband, and whatever. But who cares how I feel about all that stuff? These are real things in the real world, and you want to know how I feel about it. How's that going to resolve anything? Man, I was really off. I was really wrong. So when you're talking about these things, a question in my head is like, what do you think about feelings? Like how the control that they have over us. Have you ever stopped to consider that your feelings control basically everything about you?
No.
We like to think that it's like we reason a thing out, and then that's the reason we make our decision. But if you think about it, logic and intellect is like this, and emotion is like this. I mean, emotion controls everything. If you think about the way you buy a shirt at the store, part of it is intellect. You need a shirt. You need to have some clothing. But think about all the emotion that goes into you buying that shirt. You don't just buy any shirt. Right?
Check every rack.
You buy the collar that you like, the style that you like, and why do you like those things? Because of how it makes you feel.
Makes you feel handsome. Makes you feel, yeah.
Yeah, so back to the whole thing with like Jared and you guys getting in these drugs and everything. I think it would be a mistake to think, well, we were kids and we just got to do whatever we wanted to do and it was awesome. That might have been the perspective at the time, but if you examine it, I think a little bit deeper, I think you'd get to some pain about your sense of worth. So like when I think about a child whose parents don't care where they're at, what's the messaging there about your worth? Wouldn't the message be that you don't really have any worth? If you mattered more, then we would care where you're at, what you're doing. When your mom did not discipline you for when you were robbing the store of the cigarettes, my question about that was kind of, I wanted to know, did she show concern for you by being willing to discipline you in order to help steer you in a better direction? And it sounds like she was really just worried about herself.
Maybe.
Because you said she was talking about how ashamed she was, how embarrassed she was and everything like that, What's the message there? The message is, I don't really matter, so I can do whatever I want to do. That's kind of painful. I mean, if you really get down to analyzing that sort of thing. I'm just telling you, I'm using you as the example here, but I had to do those same things with my parents. And my parents didn't let me run all over the place or anything like that. But the message about my feelings, about my worth, were all the same. And the effect on me was really crazy. I mean, you don't know my whole story, but, I had an idyllic life out there in Philadelphia. And just beautiful house, beautiful wife, beautiful job, beautiful everything, and all these things started coming to a head. All these things that were deep inside of me about my worth, and which had all come from messaging from my parents and their attitudes about us and the way they treated us and talked to us and all this stuff. It had real world consequences. I mean, when I started acting out in all these weird, crazy behaviors and ruined my life. I mean, I lost everything. It wasn't because of intellect. It was because of some painful things I was dealing with inside, It was a big deal. I mean, that's what, if I could get you to think about anything, it would be that. Like, are you underestimating the power that feelings have in your life?
Oh, I'm sure I am. I mean, I would about guarantee it, yeah, because I'm just, I just kind of try to find a quick answer and then,
a Band-Aid.
A Band-Aid, and then just move on and, think that, well, now that we've got that out of the way, then we can go into this next thing. But
so you're having a lot of success right now with, like, staying sober and stuff like that. I mean, I've been really proud of you, especially since your brother's death. You've really been trying hard, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just not doing it. I mean, it's not as hard as I think sometimes it's made out to be. But I really don't go anywhere. I would pretty much just stay at the house and go fishing a lot, and I just don't do it, or I don't go around anybody that does, and I just
Is life less exciting now?
Yeah. I mean, just in a way, when I had a lot going on. I'm not saying it was good, fun, exciting, but it was, running from the cops. I was on house arrest, still running around town selling drugs, and so I was just, oh my God.
Do you ever find yourself?
I mean, I don't miss it by any means.
But do you ever find yourself kind of like me starting a diet? In the first 2 days, are like, oh man, I need to replace what I was doing with something else, and I don't know what that thing is yet. You find yourself in any situations like that where you're at home, kind of like, I need to do something, or I need to.
Yeah, a lot of times. I mean, I've gotten since I got out of rehab, I've got this thing in the back of my head where I'm just kind of, and I think a lot of people that get out of jail have this thing where they think that they have this fear that they're going to be arrested for, me, I'm always afraid that I'm going to be arrested for something that I didn't do. End up going back because, I still got the 3 years over my head, or not quite 3 years now, but I still got all this time over my head that it just, constantly in my head that something's going to happen. I'm going to be at the wrong place, wrong time. I'm going to be picked up for, something I didn't do, go to prison, and just have to start all over. And so I got that in my head. But I mean, I really need to start finding some things to do and occupy my time a little more through the winter. I mean, spring to the end of fall, I'm fishing all the time, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, and so I'm always fishing. I am doing a lot more stand-up now, so that's something. But
how's the crowd in the stand-up crowd? Is there drugs or anything like that, or is it pretty healthy environment?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's usually, there's definitely alcohol and stuff, and then there's weed is just a normal thing everybody's got, which I've got no problem with. And but I haven't been offered any drugs or anything. But also in my act, I talk about whatever. I always check my phone to see. I have this sober app that keeps track of It's called I Am Sober, and so I just click on. So when I have a show, so today's been 2 years and 7 months, 945 days sober. So I always check the days, and then when I go up, I say, yeah, I've been clean for 945 days or whatever it is, and then so I talk about being sober a lot in my act or whatever. I was in Indiana a few weeks back, and there was a chief of police who was trying to get me fucked up, which is weird, you know. I was like, didn't you hear?
He was trying to push stuff on you?
We're trying to get me to drink with him, yeah. This is on stage, and I said, God damn, I said, didn't you hear? Just say, you know, whatever, 800 days sober or whatever it was at the time, and you know, and it's, you know, but for whatever reason, alcohol is much more accepted, you know, than, you know, other drugs, and it's just.
So, what do you, where do you go at in your head to push back any type of craving like that?
I mean, maybe the one thing that I've learned in rehab would be, you know, if I, you know, maybe once or twice since I've been out of rehab that I've got these cravings for like speed or something like that, and then when that happens, I just I'll just you just got to change your thought process. You just got to make yourself think of something else. I'll do something to take my attention somewhere else.
Do you think about the consequences? I mean, do those deter you? Do you think about, man, I don't want to end up like I was at one particular time in my life? Right?
Oh yeah, because it would be right. I mean, it would be. I'd be right back to the races. But I mean, the main thing that. The main thing is just, you know, the day Jared died, I had to go up and tell Mom, and then, I mean, that was just the, you know, it was the absolute worst moment of my life, and I just would never, ever want to, you know, make her go through any of that shit again, and it just, I mean, it's just horrible. It was just heartbreaking and horrible, and, I mean, that's the main thing, is that I would never make her, you know, go through that shit again, and so I mean that's one of the main driving factors. Is
you think back to that a lot?
All the time, like every day, probably several times a day.
You having dreams about your brother?
Yeah.
What happens in your dreams, if you don't mind telling us?
You know, sometimes we'll just be hanging out, or you know, a few days ago I was trying to break out of, I don't exactly know what it was. It was like a castle or something, but it felt like a jail to me, and I had a duffel bag that I had stuffed with, I don't know what kind of drugs they were, but we were trying to get them out, but we had to walk, they were funneling us through this like a metal detector or whatever, and you know, right before I got up to the metal detector, I woke up. So
you didn't get caught.
didn't get caught, but yeah, it's.
Well, the reason why I ask you that is because when my best friend Jordan died, you remember Jordan?
Oh yeah.
Best friend for Lucky. He was like a brother to me, and he got killed in a car accident in 2005. I'm not kidding. For a decade after that, I had dreams about him. At first, it was every night. For the first couple of years, it was like every night. And I'll try to tell you the dream. It always makes me cry when I tell the dream, but I'll try to get through it. And then it would go to like once a week, and then it just kind of finally went away. I dream about him maybe once every couple months now. So that's something you got to look forward to. You're going to keep having those dreams for a while, I think, but they'll start to evolve and kind of lessen in intensity. But the dream I always had with him was we would be in a theater. We'd be watching a movie in a theater. We loved movies, and I'm starting to get emotional just thinking about it. All right, let me see if I can get through this. I'd look over at him, and I would realize, oh my gosh, there's Jordan, and I can see him. I can see him just like I'm looking at you. It's that real. Every detail on his face, and I remember, like, actually looking at the details of his face in my brain, and it was all there, and I would think, but he's dead. Then I would realize somehow he both is dead and isn't dead. Like the accident hasn't happened because he doesn't realize it's happened. A really weird kind of like twisty thing.
I know what you're saying.
Then I would realize, well, if I warn him about it, I have a chance to save his life. This is all happening in this dark theater while I'm sitting there staring at my friend. And then I'd have this realization every time that if I tell him about the accident, he will remember it happening, and the memory of dying will drive him mad. It'll drive him completely crazy. So there's a big catch-22. I can't tell him, because him being completely without his mind, completely mad as a hatter, is almost worse than him just dying.
Right.
You know, it's like, it's not an improvement. So it was this really weird catch-22. There he is. There's an opportunity to do something, but I can't really do anything. And the solution is almost more horrifying than the thing that actually happened.
Right.
So I would just have to sit there and talk. You know, we would talk, and he would be there. It was like he was there, and I'm talking to him knowing that he's dead. And I'm just trying to enjoy the time that we've got while we're there in the theater, but I can't really do anything to prevent this tragedy. It was really weird, man.
And it was the same recurring dream?
Recurring dream it was like every night for like at least a year, and then it started happening like, once every other day, and then the dreams started kind of changing. So now when I have a dream about him, it's not that dream. I know in the dream that he's dead almost always, and his dad too, because his dad has since died, and I loved him as much as I loved Jordan. So a lot of my dreams now are like the three of us will be out doing something.
Really?
Yeah. We'll be doing we'll be going to find a new restaurant, or go to a comic book store, or go to a movie, or we're just doing the things that we always used to do. Yeah. And at some point in the dream, I realized that they're not even alive anymore. So I just need to enjoy this time while we've got it. And I wake up happy. Before, in the those first, I'd say almost 10 years, I'd almost always wake up really, really sad. And now the types of dreams that I have don't make me wake up sad. I wake up happy, like, wow, I got to spend some time with people that I haven't seen in years.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm curious if the things you're dealing with your brother won't play out kind of similar to that.
Maybe. I mean, it's when he first died, I was having dreams all the time, and it was just horror. It was just horrible. Wake up, it was just heartbreaking. But one of the counselors that I was going to said that she told me that she said that at first these thoughts are going to be heartbreaking and everything like that, and it's going to make you sad. She said, but eventually there'll come a time where that you stop being sad, and when you think about it, those memories will make you happy, and they'll be basically be good memories. And
I guess that's kind of insightful, because nobody told me that. That's just what I told you is just my real experience. I didn't read that anywhere or anything. Yeah. That's just the way it really played out for me.
And that's what it seems like. And I know the dreams that I have aren't as intense, or there's a couple of them where you wake up and you're like, what the fuck? You're like, I think I was just, I think that he came and visited me. Some of them was just
that vivid.
That vivid, yeah. And it was like you're saying, like you're sitting there looking at the side of his face, and I can see, but it's a process for sure, and it's just, his youngest son's got his permit, and
he works down there at the the old liquor store, and I run
Yeah,
into
that's his oldest son there, Mason. Yeah, and then his youngest one he's a freshman.
They were very stoic at the funeral. They didn't seem to be feeling anything.
Yeah, they didn't have a lot of interactions those last couple years, and so I think that I don't know really. Mason seems to have. I think that they were a little angry, by the time that Jared had died. I think they had a lot of things going on that they were pissed at him for not being around as much. And
so now think about them. Think about what they're trying to work out inside of them, and think about some of the effects that might have. And again, it goes back to worth. Like, if we had mattered more, would he have done this? Right? Like, because the reality is that the drugs were more important to him than his own children.
Right.
And I'm not trying to be cruel or anything like that. I'm just trying to speak a plain truth. I mean, when you analyze the thing, that is the truth, right?
Right.
And, a person's children know that. They're not dumb.
Right.
So then it kind of gets passed along. The internal hurt gets passed along. Have you ever thought about that? Or, have you ever seen that?
I probably have thought about it, but it's...
Let me give you another example. Think about Cheryl. Now, Cheryl is known as this great helper, right? She wants to help everybody. My question has always been, if you look at her story, like if you pull back and you look at their example and the way their lives have played out, just pull back and look at it objectively.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, honey.
The microphone was on the whole time. The whole class could hear you.
Really?
Yes. The whole class could hear you. Teacher could hear you. Students could hear you. I could hear you. Everyone.
Oh. Daddy.
What's it say?
She says, Daddy, the whole class can hear you. Can you put it on mute, please? Oh, my gosh.
So what we do, just turn our volume down?
Oh, my gosh. No, I put it on mute. Can you hear us, honey? Can you hear us? Why didn't you come out and tell us earlier?
Oh. Oh.
Those 7-year-old kids. Yeah, I love cocaine.
My God.
So anyway. Oh, it's embarrassing. I don't know why. We're going to put it on the internet for 10 million people.
Well, yeah, just I think because...
And that's going to come back to me on parent-teacher conference. All right. So talking about... Now, if you're just going to look at her whole life story, you're going to pull back, distance yourself from it as far as us being related to her and her being our aunt and we loving her and everything like that. There's an example where your emotions are blinding you and redefining things. Even though you're trying to be intellectually honest about the thing, there's people that you love, you don't want to see them in a negative light, or and those sorts of things. That's another example where I'm talking about feelings being much more powerful over us than we would naturally understand them to be if we don't spend some time thinking about it. But anyway, looking at her example objectively, let's say that you take her story, just the details of the story, no emotional stuff added to it, and you present that to an objective person. Do you think they would say, yes, she's exactly the person that needs to be helping all these people?
Yeah,
because
probably not.
You'd have to look at because in that, you'd look at the results of what her help has done. When you think about somebody who's providing real help, you think of real positive consequences, right? And you know, she the truth of her story is that her own husband died of an overdose. Her son died of an overdose. The other son that she raised is a wacko. He's got AIDS. Well, he's got HIV, right?
Right.
I don't know if he's got AIDS.
Yeah.
But
he's not committed enough. He's got.
I'm gonna have to edit that out. Because he seems pretty committed to me.
Yeah, I stand corrected.
But I mean, you look at the thing and it's just chaos, right? It's all pain and chaos. These people are not dying because they're happy.
Right.
People who are happy or content are not resorting to drugs and these sorts of things to drown out any underlying pain, emotional pain. And that's clearly what's happening in her family. So while I appreciate that Cheryl is so willing to put herself out there and try to help and everything, it seems to me like more what she's doing is enabling people to stay unhealthy rather than actually helping them not be unhealthy. And you know, you're talking about Jared getting pissed off in the rehab. The only thing that came to my mind when you said that was they probably told him something that was true. That's probably why he didn't like it.
Right.
You know, if you're an unhealthy person or you're an addict or something like that, what would you prefer? Somebody who's sweet and makes you feel good, or somebody who challenges you and calls you out on your horse poo-pooey?
Yeah, I mean, and ultimately you would want the person that actually calls it like they say and don't tell you what you want to hear and all that.
It doesn't feel as good, but it's
right. I mean, at the time you just want somebody that's going to pacify you and I mean, addiction. It's just a
it takes over, don't it?
Man, it absolutely it does. I remember at one point thinking that, because I knew that I was getting indicted, so I knew that I had all these indictments coming, and I knew that if I just quit right then, sign myself into treatment, complete a treatment, that I would probably, they'd probably give me probation and just kind of slap me on the wrist, but the just thinking of the thought of going, and really it wasn't even because I wasn't doing the heroin, I was just doing the meth. I was doing outrageous amounts of it every day, but it wasn't the withdrawals that I was afraid of. The part that was horrifying to me was to have to be with my own thoughts and to
But why?
Oh, because I just knew that there was all this shit that I hadn't, that I've just suppressed. And
so was it really your thoughts you were afraid of being with? It wasn't the thoughts. It was how the thoughts make you feel.
Well, yeah, that's.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you see how it's really the feelings,
right,
that are the powerful thing? We misidentify and say it's our thoughts. Yeah, I don't want to be alone with those thoughts. But if the thoughts didn't make us feel like, really pain, it didn't really hurt, then we wouldn't mind the thoughts.
Right.
So it's the feelings.
100%. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah. That was it, but
that's a funny story that you just. I mean, it's an interesting story because I've told people about how when I first started doing this stuff on myself, I took a backpacking trip by myself, just me and my dog. Got out so far out into the mountains that night, and this was like right at the end of a divorce. I just lost everything. I mean, my life was in shambles. Terribly worried about the future and all sorts of things. But we got out there in the middle of the woods, and the whole day I was doing fine. Backpacking, we went like 10, 12 miles, something like that. And no problem, because the whole day you're busy, you're moving along, your mind is preoccupied and everything. But that night, once I got the campfire going, got sat down there by the campfire, had no phone signal, so no texting or social media or anything like that. Nobody with me. Nobody to talk to.
Oh.
Just sitting there by the fire. I'm telling you what, the thoughts, it was the noise in my head got so loud I thought I was going to go crazy. I'm not kidding.
The noise of the silent, how that silence can be so loud,
because you don't really realize how many times during the day when you feel something uncomfortable, like you have a thought that makes you feel uncomfortable, how quickly you distract yourself from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just normal life every day. I once talked to a guy who said that when he'd drive down the road, he'd have so many uncomfortable thoughts that he would do games just driving. Like he'd either turn on the radio or he would start counting road signs. Anything to distract him from those uncomfortable feelings. And and it goes back to the thing, it's not the thoughts. I mean, they're there, they have a part to play. But that's not the problem. The problem is how they make us feel. So it's really our feelings which have all the power, not the thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I never thought of it like that, but I would agree with you 100%. Because, like you said, it wasn't the thoughts that I had to deal with; it was how the thoughts made me feel. But it was horrifying, and I didn't want nothing to do with it. And then, even knowing that it was going to help me out in the long run, but thing with addiction is it's always tomorrow. Today's not good, tomorrow is. Right.
Yeah, and then the perfect time never comes.
Right. Yeah. And then you say, I think I told you the one time when I got out of jail, I went. I think I was in jail for about 3 months this time, and I got out of jail and walked from the jail directly, just right up the street here to I was getting dope off of at that time, and so within a half an hour of being out of jail, I had a needle in my arm and was high, and I was thinking when I get out, I'll just get high tonight, and then tomorrow, I'll be done with it. And so, but that never happens. Like they say in recovery that once is never enough, and once is never enough, and 1,000's too. Or once is. Am I doing it backward?
Never eat yellow snow, I think.
Yeah. Now they're saying so. A lot of people say that when they get out of treatment, they'll say, "Well, I'm just gonna get high tonight." And so they say one time is too many, and 1,000 times is never enough.
Mm.
So it's so you just never, Yeah, but it's just a giant mind
cluster.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
I don't mind you cursing. I've been really working hard not to curse. The first couple, everybody remember the first couple of years I did this show. I used cursing a lot. I tried to use it strategically to like really drive home points and stuff like that.
Kind of enhance the point that you're saying.
Yeah. And so I saw they've all heard me curse, but in the past 2 years, maybe 2 years, I just decided to try to. That was like the next self-improvement thing I wanted to work on. I thought that's got to be a pretty easy one, and it has been pretty easy. So anyway, I'm having a lot of success with it. I don't mind hearing when people curse.
I cuss like it. So I just stutter. But I do. I say GD a lot. I say it a lot on stage. I say it a lot just in general life. But I'd like to mark that one out. But not even that I'm a real religious person.
If I had more serious things to deal with, cursing would not be at the top of my priorities.
Right.
But life is calm and I'm feeling good, and it seems like it seems like a good time to do it.
Right.
You were telling me about your older brother Jeremy.
Yeah.
He is a scoundrel. I mean, he's ornery.
Yeah.
Very untrustworthy. But he wasn't always like that. I kind of feel like he got like that during when you guys started getting into drugs and stuff.
Yeah.
You were telling me earlier when we were kind of on a little break that he just found out something about his health.
Yeah, they think that. So I'm not real sure about it, but I know it's Huntington's disease is the disease, and it's like a degenerative brain disease, and there's no cure for it. And the way that I researched it is it was like they said it was like Alzheimer's, ALS, and another one like all together. But it's basically just your memory goes, and you end up
jerky
bedridden.
motions and stuff like that.
It starts off with like jerking and forgetfulness, and then very rapidly it just becomes, you're bedridden and you're just
And he's
somebody.
You said he's 45.
Yeah.
Do you make any association with all the drug use that he's done and that?
No, but I mean, it's just really because I'm not educated enough to make it. But I mean, I would imagine if I had to take a guess that it would have something. It would have to have something to do with it. I mean, you think that I'm 43, and then I've been, this is the longest stretch of sobriety I've had since I was 10, 11 years old. So, and when you stay that messed up forever, I mean, it has to do something to your brain. It's just like
you would think, wouldn't you?
It's got to make a couple soft spots somewhere.
Whether they can, on a brain scan, can make a definite connection between the two things. It just seems kind of like there's got to be some kind of connection to those sorts of things. I want to show you guys who are watching this video this artwork I did of Jay and Jared when they started stand-up years ago. I was living in Philadelphia at the time, and they reached out to me and said, "Hey, could you do some sort of artwork for us?" I said, "Sure." And so I did this a him and his brother. I'm pretty proud of that. But anyway, this is the original. What they had originally, I'd given them a copy.
Yeah.
But I told him that I was real proud of him. This is after his brother died. I told him that I was real proud of him. He was working hard, and I could tell he was trying hard. And I said, you keep you keep your nose clean for a little while. I'll give you the original. And so today he's finally given that to him. I would have given it to him anyway, to be honest about it.
Now, that was our first shirt that we ever had made, but had that print on it. Yeah, so that was
Yeah, I'm still pretty proud of that, because I'm not the best caricaturist or portrait artist, but and when you're doing, the thing is, when you're doing identical twins, since I growed up with them, I could tell them apart. I remember a time when I couldn't. When we first moved out there to the farm, first few days I couldn't tell you guys apart. But after that, it was like, no, this is him and this is Jared.
Yeah.
And then after that, I could never look at you guys and see the same person ever again. After that. It was just like, there's something like when you get to know an identical twin well, there's just some dead giveaways that you see instantly. But so to do a portrait of identical twins and to make some just the subtlest of distinctions to tell them apart was a big deal. I mean, that looks just like you, I think, and that looked just like Jared.
Yeah, his facial hair was darker, so I mean that's it's awesome. I love it.
09.
2009.
Yeah.
And so that was, like I said, that was right when we first started. So that was probably right when Jared started. So Jared started
first?
No. So I started in 08, April of 08, and so he's probably started in like October of 08 or something somewhere around there. And then we got shirts made as soon as you sent this to us, and so that makes sense with the 09, because we got shirts made within a year.
I remember Diana. I said, "Boy, I don't know if I can do this." And she said, "Why not?" I said, "Well, first of all, I know him too well. It's really hard to draw the likeness of a person that you really know well, because emotions.
Right.
My emotions are affecting how I prefer to see you guys, or how I choose to see you guys. And when you're doing a portrait, you got to kind of like push that aside and see what you're looking at rather than what you feel about what you're looking at."
Right.
So it was, I remember doing it and showing it to her. "What do you think about this?" And I'd do a little bit more work on it. "And what do you think about this?" And she helped a lot with that.
I love it. It's awesome. Thank you.
To kind of wind things down here, we got a lot of material. I am going to split this up into a double episode, but you have been doing real good. To end on a positive note, what are the things that make you happy nowadays?
The things that make me happy nowadays. Man, it's been not a lot. Like what would be? Let me take just a second and think about this.
Boy, of all the things I thought would put you on the spot, what makes you happy wasn't one of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's some days are better than others.
So things are rough.
Well, I mean, it's I've got I feel like I haven't for a while I was feel like just climbing a ladder doing good, and then I kind of feel like I've kind of plateaued, and I'm not not really still I'm not still knocking things off my list like to do better. I mean, I am, I guess. I don't know, I'm my biggest critic, but so I'm trying to I guess what makes me happy is I talk to my kids a lot now, and I've my oldest son Logan's got my first granddaughter, and so I'm real proud of them, and so that obviously, I mean, seeing that my kids are successful and doing good is and hopefully never gonna have to deal with any of the shit that I've brought on myself. That's probably where I get my most happiness from.
When you go fishing alone, or you go with somebody?
Both.
What do you like about fishing? What are you fishing for?
Bass? Usually bass. I don't know. I mean, obviously love outdoors. You know how we were raised. Just a endless. Because it was not only that we had the 100 acres or whatever it was back then.
Thousands of acres.
Because then we had Castle, and then we had so we thousands of acres.
I once looked at that on Google Earth.
Mm-hmm.
This was 10, 15 years ago when the satellite stuff first started coming out. I looked at it and it was like my parents' house and just woods. And they're like a dot here, there's a trailer. Dot over here, there's a trailer. But I mean, it was just, and it kind of spread up like around here. I mean, we could just go forever and ever and ever.
Yeah, and we knew them woods like we just know where the Great Dirt Hill was, and the
Yeah, there's still parts of it though that I have not explored even today. Yeah, I've tried to, but it's kind of like it's a big commitment to get to some of those places, and which I'm not against. It's just like, which part do I want to explore this time, and what do I want to save for next time? I went out there a few years ago, tried to get out further than I'd ever been, and there's some weird, interesting stuff out back there, like weird creek formations and rocks and stuff like that. Places where the ground is just worn away by these creeks or these little brooks, and it's just solid slate ground. Yeah, it's like, I think you get down enough below some of that dirt and it's just solid slate. It's really interesting. I mean, you could just walk through there like the woods, like the whole earth had split apart and there was just this shale walkway.
Is that right?
Yeah, with just like a trickle of water coming through.
Man, I told you that I would love to go out there and make like a little cabin or something out of just like trees and just something small, just to see if it could. I mean, I know we could do it. I mean, we damn near did it when we were younger. But I'd like to make an actual log cabin out of logs. If you can make it walls this high and then pitch a roof or something.
I gotta show you something. There's something I would like to build out there on my little dinky 3 acres, but it's like a lean-to, but it would be built across 2 trees and with a sheet metal roof. Mm-hmm. But it'd just be a lean-to, but it'd be like a permanent shelter out there.
Right.
I'll show you a picture of what I got in mind later on.
Yeah, and I've got I'd like to go out there. I've got Jared's ashes. I'd like to spread out there somewhere, but I don't know when or what, or in a stream or something.
Warn me so I don't go out there and start drinking out of it while you're upstream. You upstream from him,
Yeah,
this tastes spiritual.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, I was just telling people on that other thing I do, Practical Woodsman. Man, we didn't carry gear, but we get so far back. Like our parents could be screaming for us to come home at the top of their lungs. We could not hear them.
Right.
And I said we'd get it back here, and we didn't carry things, so it was just like we regularly drank out of the creeks and the streams that we found out there. Like what we found, that's what we used.
Yeah.
We weren't going to go all the way back home just to get a drink.
Right.
So we'd end up drinking our way back out in the woods.
Eat sours and sassafras and whatever.
Sweet anise. I remember sweet anise water.
Yeah.
Well, buddy, I'm going to wrap this show up,
Okay.
and I'm glad that you shared so much with us. I'm going to be interested to see how people react to it and what they have to say and everything like that. Were you nervous?
No, not really. I mean, first it takes a minute to get just into the regular mode because for whatever reason the camera's always
makes
you
it
block
unnatural,
it. Yeah.
Let me ask you one last question.
Yeah.
Why were you so willing to talk about some really private and sensitive things?
I don't know. It's not.
You don't see any reason why not to.
No, I'm not ashamed of any of the horrible things they're doing. I mean, we've just barely touched on a lot of the stuff, but I do regret some of it, but I'm not ashamed of it. I mean, it's shit that I've done, and it's it don't define me. It's just a page or two out of the story, but and it's I guess nice if if you feel like you can relate to somebody or you learn something or whatever. But
well, I think that's why a lot of people have taken to watching or listening to this shows, because I just talk openly about my own stuff.
Right.
I know you don't know much about the show, but when you get home, you'll be able to start watching them and listening to them. You'll hear me talk about a bunch of stuff, and and I think that's what people were attracted to. They could see that I wasn't trying to hide any of the less attractive stuff. I was willing to share that too.
Right. I think it's nice that you're not a licensed psychologist and that you're self-taught and you've read all the books and all that stuff. So it's it don't feel like a.
Well, I'm pretty critical of the professional community. I'm pretty critical about them. I like to recognize the good ones, that there are good ones, but the majority of them are not good. The majority of them are idiots and in it for the wrong reason and rely on third-hand, fourth-hand indoctrination about what they're supposed to say, what they're supposed to know, and it's not a real knowing. It's not a knowing from first-hand experience. But I did deal with some really good ones and got a lot of help from some really good ones, but it just took a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, old buddy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's wrap up this show.
Yes.
Guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week. Do something nice for yourselves this weekend. I know Jay's going to give me all the fish that he catches.
Yes.
Out of the
shit creek.
I didn't want to say it.
I caught one smallmouth out of there already last week.
Did you really?
Yeah. I mean, it's only about like that, so yeah.
I think I'd eat stuff out of there.
Oh yeah, I definitely would. I'm upstream too.
Well, supposedly what they empty out there is all the clean stuff.
Right.
Supposedly. All right. Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you next time.